Okay, this time I'm gonna talk about God dang Sonic Unleashed. It starts off and it's like Eggman and he's got his stupid fleet and it's like all his boats and everything and all that crap. And he's laughing. He's like, wah ha ha, like he always is. Like, I'm gonna rule the world finally, even though he's not, and he has to know that. And then Sonic's like, boom, and he busts on the scene and he's like, oh snap, Sonic. And Sonic is busting through the robots, all of course. And Eggman's like, you're not getting away. And then Sonic's like, everybody super Sonic racing. And the Eggman finally grabs him or something and he's like, oh snap, I guess I better use Chaos Emeralds, which does it, and he does Supersonic, and then Eggman's like, oh snaps, and then Sonic's like flying around, he's like, I'm Supersonic, I gotta get you, Eggman. Eggman's flying around, he's like, ha, I got a trick in my sleeve, he didn't know. So he goes to this weird little space station and he goes into it and Sonic's like, boom, and he busts in there, and then Eggman's like, oh snap, I'm sorry, I'll leave you alone. And Sonic's like, no you won't, fool. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I won't. And then he goes, like, pushes his button, and then Sonic's like, oh snap, I'm caught. Even though he's Supersonic, he gets caught. And Eggman's like, whoa ha ha ha, and he starts shocking Sonic with his purple crap, and Sonic's like, it hurts. And Eggman's like, ha ha ha, and then he shoots his weird purple laser through Sonic, and, like, hits the planet, and the planet's like, boom, and then this big thing in the ocean is like, boom, and then all this stuff is like, and then the planet starts busting out in a bunch of pieces. The planet's all screwed up, and then this purple stuff starts flipping around out of the planet, and then you're like, what in the world is that? Eggman was like, oh, the dark manuscript, the dark guy manuscripts, and I was like, whatever you say, I know I'm gonna find out about it later. And Sonic's like, meh, I'm changing, and he's like, meh, and then he's like all crazy evil, and he's got sharp teeth and furry, and he's all big and he's got muscles, and he busts out his gloves, and he's like, you really gonna done it this time, Eggman? And Eggman's like, yeah, whatever, shut up. And he opens his air thingy, he's like, I'm falling to the planet, and all the Chaos Emeralds, they're not colors, like, but they fall, Sonic falls, and they're all falling to the planet, and Eggman's like, whoa ha ha. Anyways, he's falling to the planet, and then he gets surrounded by his ball, and then he's like, oh snap, I'm not falling anymore. And he does fall, and he gets his face stuck. And then he wakes up and he's like, wow, what happened? And you look around and there's this little purple thing that looks like a Chihuahua fairy. It's like Chihuahua Navi. It's got wings like Navi and it's purple Chihuahua. Anyways, he's like, oh snap, you're Mr. Monster Guy. And then Sonic's like, I'm not a monster. And he looks and so he's like, oh snap, I'm big and scary. They become friends, I forget. And then they're like, alright, what's your name? He's like, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. And he's like, I don't know my name. And then Sonic's like, oh man, I fell on him. Now I can't remember, so I better help him out. So he's like, alright, I'll be your friend. And he's like, okay. And then the sun comes up, and then Sonic's like, and he turns back normal. The little dude, he's like, oh snap, you turn into a nice person. Now you're not mean, you're not scary. And then they go to this town. It looks like Greece. And he's running around, of course, doing his stupid missions like press A to jump and all that stupid crap. And he does that, and he goes to the city, and all these people are in the city. And then the little purple chihuahua thing, he's like, oh snap, ice cream. And he goes to this ice cream stand, and the guy's like, hey, ice cream, you want some? And he's like, yeah, sure. They're eating the ice cream, and he's like, and Sonic was like, well, I guess we better figure out what's up with your memory chip. And he's like, Chip, oh snap, I got a name. And he's like, yeah, sure, because you like chocolate chips. And he's like, oh snap, chocolate. But they keep doing stages, they do some more stages, and then Sonic's like, oh snap, Tails. And then Tails is like, what's up? And then Tails is like, oh snap, you're a big monster, because it was like nighttime when he saw Tails, and at night he turns to a warhog. And then he's like, Tails, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm doing some research. And then they're like, okay, we gotta go to another continent, but the planet's busted, so we can't run over there. And Tails like, I got my airplane. So they get on the airplane, they fly to another continent, and they're looking for this professor dude. He complains about cucumber sandwiches, but alright dude, let's go. And then the dude's all like, well, actually the planet's been broken a lot more times. And then they're like, oh snap, really? Like, yeah. And then he tells him, he's like, well, basically, Sonic, let's play Zelda and, you know, go to all the temples and fix all the stupid Chaos Emeralds, because there's 7 of them. 7 temples. Just like Zelda. So he does it, and then he comes back and he's like looking for Eggman, and Eggman's like, oh man, I'm gonna use all this energy that dark Gaia thing did to create Eggman Land. Anyways, he made it, kinda sorta, and then Sonic was like, wow, this place is pretty freaky. Like, before he went in there, the little chipmunk dude, oh, Chihuahua dude, he's like, oh snap, Sonic, I guess I got my memory because I got sucked into a painting or something. And it was like saying some weird godly words. And he was like, I know who I am now. And Sonic was like, who are you? He's like, I'm Silver the Hedgehog. I mean, I'm like Gaia. And they were like, what? And then he's like, yeah, I'm actually like the good Gaia. I was like, good Gaia, whatever. You're like 2 feet tall and that thing's like the size of the planet. You're gonna lose. No matter what kind of guy you are. And then he's like, I do some crap and we fight every million years, and then afterwards we go to sleep. He's like, thank you for showing me the world, because I've lived here for millions of years and I never knew that you could eat chocolate and stupid dumb crap. And so I was like, just smile. I mean, not really, but he's doing this dumb happy crap. And then they're like, let's go fight Eggman. They find Eggman. Eggman's like, I built my city on top of the last temple so you get confused. And then Sonic's like, well duh, I knew it was here because the professor dude told me. He was like, oh shoot. And then he found Eggman. He was like, Dark Gaia is complete now. And I was like, what? And then like Dark Gaia comes out of the core. He's like, and he has like this thing sticking out of his cheeks, and they look like a big old row of teeth. So he goes like, Sonic's like, well, I'm a werehog, so I'll beat you down. And you're like, yeah, I'm about to beat him down, werehog form. And then Dark Guy's like, and he's like, Sonic's like, oh, my stomach. And he starts glowing, and Guy starts taking all his icky stuff away, so he's no longer a werehog. So yeah. Anyways, he took all Sonic's powers, and Sonic was like, Chip, run, Chip. And Chip was like, no, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm only 2 feet tall. And then the guy he was like, and he started shooting junk at him. And the Chip was like, mad face, and then he got like glowing or something, and he said something like something rekindled, and then all the temples that they had to go to get dumb Chaos Emeralds like came together, and they were like made arms and legs and a head, and he made a temple Zord. You had to play the stupid temple Zord and to fight Guy, and you had to do this crazy. You had to play Street Fighter with a chipmunk temple thing against this giant monster through a cheat, and sometimes you could hit him and it'd be like counter, and it made you feel good, but then he'd smack you right in the head. It's a big old temple thing. It had Chip's voice, so when he hit you, he was like, ah. But then when you hit Guy, he was like, ah. So it made you feel like, wow, I'm not really that cool as a big old temple monster. But then you beat Guy up, you smack him around in the face a little bit, and then he gets mad. Then he like grows arms from his sides, and they're like, and then he starts trying to put Smackdown on you again. And then Sonic's like, oh snap, Chip needs my help. So he starts running around. Chip is a stage now. He's a big temple thing. You're running around and you're like, I gotta get a Guy's face. Happens to like jump in the air. And then one of Guy's eyes is like sitting there right there in front of you. And you're like, A, B, X, and you press the buttons, and then Sonic flies into his eyes, and his eyes like, and then bleeds and all that. You do that 3 times, hit all 3 of his eyes, and Guy's like, no, I can't see. And then Chip's like, oh snap, Sonic, wow, we did a good job. I guess we're done for. Or he's done for. Then Guy's like, murr. And then his whole crazy long teeth thing, they get even bigger. And instead of being teeth, it's like 6 eyes. So he's like, his mouth, like he opens his mouth up, and his mouth is holding a gigantic eye. And then all the things on the sides that were supposed to be teeth, they open up wider, and there are more eyes. And then Chip's like, oh snap, what are we gonna do? And Sonic's like, I guess I better do it super now. So he does it, and he hits all the eyes, and then the guy's like, wow, you blinded me, I guess I'm pretty much done for. I mean, you could have done a whole lot more than just poke out my eyes, but whatever. And he falls back into the Earth's core, and then Chip's like, oh snap, I guess we're done. I guess that means I better go sleep with him now. Sonic was like unconscious, and then Chip was like talking to him, and then he was like, Sonic, thank you so much for showing me the world. I can't believe I didn't know so much about it. You're a wonderful person, and I will always be with you. And he gave him this dumb gem thing, and then Sonic was like, wow, thanks a lot, Chip. He put it on his arm. Oh, I mean, before that, like, they were still in the Earth's core, of course, and then Chip was like holding him in his crazy temple form. He like, the planet was coming back together, and he had Sonic in his hand, and then he like threw him like out of the core, so he was like he's still alive and all. I mean, he should have died from that, but he was cool. Sonic was like, oh snap, what's going on? Let's go find the Chaos Emeralds and go F around with Eggman again. And they're like, okay. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I was in. So yeah, that was in.